from Ramjas College, Delhi University.
Okay. And what are your areas of interest? What do you think you would expect from the program of MA here?
So my area of interest is identity economics and game theory. And in the previous prestige sessions, I've found professors who actually share the similar interests. So I'm expecting to interact with them soon.
Okay. Sorry? Uh, Lalit? There is another session interrupting here. What can I do? Oh, it is gone now. What about you, Archita Mukherjee?
Good morning, Professor.
Yes.
So, I just finished my bachelor's in mathematics
Okay.
from St. Xavier's College, Mumbai. And
Okay. Then,
now,
yes.
sorry, Professor.
Yes, yes, please carry on.
Yes. So, I'm, pl- I, I'm starting with economics in my master's. I have done it in the last time I touched economics as a subject was in class 11th and 12th.
Okay.
And so yes, I'd mostly be exploring and then choosing on what I would want to do further in future.
Okay, that's great. So, loss of mathematics is a gain for economics, is it?
Yes, sir.
Hmm? Okay, because in economics you always talk in terms of losses and gains, isn't it?
Yes.
So, in that sense, I think consider it as a loss to mathematics and a gain for economics. That's good. That's great for us. What about you, Keshav Sethi?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Professor. My name is Keshav Sethi. I am from Central Delhi. I have completed my economics honors this year from Dr. B.R. Ambedkar College in Delhi University. My area of interest is in managerial economics, comprised of micro, macro, and game theory. And I want to continue this field further and ultimately go for a specialization in managerial economics. So that's why I joined the Jindal School of Government and Public Policy for master's program.
Okay. How about you, Aliva? It appears. Hello, Aliva, can you hear me? Okay, it appears she is not online. Okay, your mic is not working. But it appears that you are you did your bachelor's from our university itself, from our school, right? Okay. So, what are your areas of interest? Why did you join a master's program in economics? What do you want to learn? You can write it out. There is no problem. Well, so is it the numbers, Sambit? Oh, there is one more now. Hello, welcome to this session today. Mishika, have I pronounced it correctly, your name? Hello, Mishika. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
So, can you give us a small introduction about yourself?
Hello, everybody. I'm Nishika Singla, and I'm from Nagpur, Maharashtra.
A bit louder,
I'm
please.
on
Yes. You are from?
Nagpur, Maharashtra, sir.
Okay. Okay. And what are your interests in economics?
I like econometrics a lot. Macroeconomics is another very favorite subject of mine.
Okay. Okay, that's fine.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And Sumit, Sambit, can you give me a indication about how many of you are there in this group? Is it 5 or more than that?
So usually 6 people join, but the total number of students is 15.
Is 16?
15, sir.
15. Okay,
Yes.
that's good. That's a good number. Uh, welcome to this session of our Prestige program. And I understand that this is almost going to be the end of this program, or maybe it will be extended by 2 more weeks because your classes will begin from 16th of August. But you have already covered a lot of ideas, and your faculty, you have come to know your faculty members, and they have shared their ideas with you, and I hope you also could share your views and your ideas with them. So, if you have noticed the title of my presentation today, it talks about social ecological system and its relevance in the context of understanding economics. So, before I get into the details of it, let me start with some fundamental questions, which I think even Archita, who studied economics at class two level, can also answer. You have heard of 4 factors of production, have you, Archita?
Yes, I think I believe I.
The 4 factors of production, Sambit, have you heard of them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But why was it necessary for a subject like economics to develop and come out with the ideas of factors of production and the uh, following ideas, several ideas that, as you said, game theory, or some said microeconomics, macroeconomics. What is the fundamental reason that we had to derive and generate knowledge about these ideas? Sambit, would you like to react? Then I'll go to Mishika.
Sir, I think to facilitate decision making.
Okay. So why did we have to take decisions?
So we have to take decisions in a lot
Decision
of.
on what?
So how much to produce, how much to consume, what to do, what not to do, and our uh, how to optimize our incomes and the resources that we have.
Okay. So, Keshav, would you like to add? Sambit made a very eloquent argument. Would you like to add something to that?
Yes, sir. So the problem of choice, scarcity problem arises for both consumers and the producers. For the producers, because of the alternate techniques for producing goods, and for the consumers, because the resources are limited and they have the alternate uses.
Okay. May I go to what I could not read the whole name? Yashovardhan, is it?
Yes, sir.
Where are you from?
So I am from Ghaziabad, uh,
Where
Uttar
did you
Pradesh.
study? Where did you study
I
your
did my
undergraduate?
I did my undergrad in BCom honors from Ramjas College, Delhi University. Oh, sorry, Khalsa College from Delhi University. Before that, I was in SAT for 1 year in Ramjas College.
Okay. Okay. Now, let me ask a silly question, and I would address it to Archita. There are so many living beings on the world. You have the elephants, you have the tigers, you have human beings, but you have even the trees, plants, weeds. But none of them, other than the human being, uh, is keen on studying or developing a subject called economics. What may be the reason? Why don't the elephants study economics or develop a subject called economics? What would be your idea? Meaning how or why, whether and to why we are different from the other living beings.
Right. Thank you, Professor. I believe that
It
one.
should not be. It should not be a belief. Belief can be only with Quran or Gita or Bible, right?
Right. Right.
Huh? It is
Right.
not a case of believing. It's a case of realizing and agreeing, right? Anyway, I am just pulling your legs. Yeah, tell me.
Yes. So one of the reasons would be that human beings have alternate uses for resources. We up
Very good. Very,
we
very
work
good.
on the resources and upscale them into something for it to have multiple
Why?
uses
Why do you use resources?
for maintaining a standard of living or to go high in.
Though, don't you think that the elephants do not maintain a standard of living?
They have a very basic. Uh, Again, I think. Uh,
You are in a process of learning economics, right?
yes, Professor.
And the fundamental question is that why dogs do not have economics or why mosquitoes do not have economics. Why do, or is it that they believe in optimizing or they believe in game theory, they have their own game theories in mind? Did you get my question?
Ye- Yes, I think I am getting it. Uh, so
Okay, you think about it. You may like to come back after 3-4 minutes. I go to someone else, right?
yes, Professor.
Archita?
Yes, Professor.
Yashovardhan, would you like to attempt an answer?
The same question.
Yes, yes. The question will remain the same all through the session today.
I can take like shot in the dark, but maybe it's because uh, like how trade developed and society developed, and while animals have the primal instincts, we have sort of like developed
Did not they have? Do not they have their own societies?
uh yes, they
Hmm?
do. Yes,
They
they do.
also have their own societies, and even in case of tigers, they have their own region. They don't allow any other tiger to enter that. A sort of a complementary idea of state with them, isn't it?
True, true.
No, we have to understand the fundamental difference between human beings and other living beings. What is that, Keshav?
So the assumption of rationality in the economics, we take the assumption of rationality as the economic agents are rational, one who aims to maximize their consumption or production.
Okay. So you have been already indoctrinated by the idea of optimization and maximization. Right. Maximization and optimization is the second part of the human process. Right. What is the first? The first difference, the fundamental difference, as Aliva has already mentioned, but again, I would say at a second level. But the first level difference between human beings and other living beings runs in the term of a concept that only human beings produce. The other living beings, they do not produce anything, do they? Aliva, you may answer back on chat. I have no problem. And since they produce, then that's why they exchange. Isn't it, Aliva? So the fundamental difference between an elephant and a human being or a banyan tree is the fact that we, the human beings, are capable of producing. What is meant by production? you have got the very common definition. The definition says that, well, production means transformation of inputs into outputs. Right, Shambhid?
Yes, sir.
Now, if you now look back to the animal kingdom or the living plant kingdom, you will find that they do not transform resource inputs into outputs, do they? Sambit?
No, sir, they do not. They do not, sir.
They do not. What is meant by transformation then? Transformation means that you get some resources and then convert it into something which was not available earlier. Right, Yashavardhan?
Yes, sir.
And that is the reason of the difference between the other living beings and human beings. We as human beings are not happy with what we get from nature in its original form. And that is why we have developed, that is how and that is why we have developed a capacity to produce, to convert or to transform available resources from nature into something else which the nature cannot provide us herself. But take the case of an elephant, take the case of an ant, or take the case of a tree or a plant. They derive the resources from the nature and directly consume those resources. Right? Sangeet?
Yes, sir.
Archita?
Yes,
Archita?
yes, Prof. Sorry. Yes.
That means, if I use your terms of mathematics, there is no production function like y is equal to function of x1, x2, x3, x4 as all these resources that we use for production. This production function is not available for the rest of the living kingdom. Only human beings have been able to derive or develop a concept of production function on their own. Do I make sense, Aliva? I have a new what's your name? Shivi.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So you just joined, maybe you missed out. What do you think, Keshav? So
Yes, sir.
human beings operate or maintain a production function, whereas rest of the living beings, they only consume. But on the other hand, human beings simultaneously consume and produce. And again, there is a difference between living beings and other living beings and human beings, that human beings firstly consume some resources directly from nature, and secondly uses some resources from nature and convert them into some new produce which the nature cannot afford or offer, and then consume them. Right, Yashavardhan?
Yes, sir.
Whereas the animal beings or the other living beings, they only consume. So unfortunately, although there is a program called Master Chef, and only the human beings participate in that program. You don't have an elephant participating in the Master Chef program because they don't know how to cook. Right, Archita?
Yes, Professor.
What does that mean? When we cook, what do?
We process.
We transform some natural resources and use some other man-made resources into food, which is not directly available from nature. Right?
Yes, Professor.
Hello?
Yes, Professor.
So the point that I am trying to make, Shivi, I think now you are in a process to absorb whatever we are discussing. The fundamental point or point of departure in economics is the idea of production. And that is very clearly described in a concept which many of you must have done in your undergraduate program or even in +2 courses, is the circular flow of income. Have you learned about that process, Keshav?
Yes, sir.
What is circular flow of income? You will see that
So,
in the circular flow of income there are two nodes. One is production and other is consumption. And through the process of the cycle of production and consumption, the macroeconomy or the economic system operates, right?
yes, sir.
And since we are using resources to produce, we have to consider the idea of optimization. Optimization is not the first word. Optimization is the second level of understanding of the economic process. We had there been unlimited supply of resources, was there a necessity of optimization? Shambhit?
No, sir.
No. On the other hand, had there been limited wants of individuals, had there been a problem of optimization? Keshav?
No, sir. Optimization. Human wants are unlimited.
If our wants were limited, was there a concept or concern for optimization?
No, sir.
No. So the point is, the optimizations comes at the second level when we realize and agree that wants are unlimited and resources are limited. And these two simultaneous processes force us to think in terms of optimization, how to maximize our want. And the optimization, I would have expected you to mention that economics don't believe in optimization per se, but economists believe in constrained optimization, isn't it, Yashovardhan?
I believe so, yes.
Again, you are going back to Quran and Gita. You should not believe. You should agree or disagree, right?
I'm guessing I've not studied much of the undergrad, so I'm like, uh, I
Okay.
believe it.
So Sambit,
Yes, sir.
so we don't believe in economists do not believe in optimization only. It is a qualified optimization in terms of constrained optimization. We are optimizing our unlimited wants subject to the constraint of limited and scarce resource availability. Right? And here comes a very important point that I would like to elaborate a little in about 20 minutes. But I always believe in dialogue, so in between I'll ask questions and get your inputs. because that is how I teach. I never believe in monologue. So the point that I am trying to make is, now let me go back to the ideas that I raised right at the beginning, that there are 4 factors of production. And that is why I said that since only human beings produce, they had to be very careful, they had to be very critical of finding out as to how then we can produce. And then we found that we require 4 types of resources to facilitate our process of production. And those fundamental 4 types of resources are called 4 factors of production. Right, Aliva? Can you link it to whatever you studied in your undergraduate program? Now, the point is very simple. Again, the circular flow of income tells us that if we don't produce, we cannot consume. Right? So the next part of optimization of utility and other things, there comes again the indirect influence of the process of production. Although there will be others, and that is also true, some people will say that if we don't consume, then what's the use of producing? So, circular flow of income talks about the interlinkage between production and consumption. But I will right now, for the sake of this discussion, I will emphasize more on the fact that while every living beings consume, only human beings produce. And what do they produce, Sambit? What are they called? They are called goods, right?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
And services. Why are they called goods and services? Because they provide utility to those who consume it, right? Keshav?
Yes, sir.
But now, over the last 50 years or so, we have realized that in the process of production, we are also creating some bads, which I would like to refer to as pollution. Do we do that? What is the difference between pollutants and a good that we produce or a service that we produce? A pollutant, a good or service, gives you a positive utility when you consume them. But when you consume a pollutant, what happens? Your utility becomes negative, right, Yashavardhan?
Yes, sir.
But if you have a look at the fundamental microeconomics or macroeconomics, so to speak of, or even go beyond that to international trade theory, public finance, in the fundamental form, you will find that they do not have any space for goods and services which generate negative utility. Do they have? Do you have any such thing? Have you studied any such thing in your undergraduate or +2 programs? Sambit?
Yes, sir.
No, have you come across in your indifference curve analysis or your production function any good or service that has the capability of generating negative utility or negative satisfaction?
Yes, sir.
So we fundamentally assume 2 things. We assume that consumption can never be negative. Number 2, prices can never be negative, isn't it, Archita?
Yes.
We always operate on the first quadrant with price and quantity. But when some commodity or good provide negative utility, what does that mean? That we will believe in negative consumption of that product? Keshav?
The consumer will not buy that product.
Consumer rather would have negative utility out of that. So if it wants, it will consume in a logical sense, will consume a negative amount of that, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes.
And they are going to pay a negative price for that, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Negative price.
But if you have a look at the fundamental economic structure of analysis, you will find that there is not much of scope directly to use them in our understanding of production and consumption. Yashovardhan, do you agree or do you believe or what is it?
Yes, sir.
You
Agree.
believe or you agree?
Agree.
Okay. So the point that well, you have not yet joined any time. Shivi, you feel free to join. Can you speak out? Is your microphone working?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay. So whenever you feel like, just join, right?
sir. Okay, yes, sure.
And then the point that we are trying to, I would like to make here is that if you now look back to the four factors of production, what are they? Keshav, can you tell me or tell us?
Sir, land,
Labor.
labor, capital, and entrepreneurs.
Okay. Let us try to define all four of them to understand as to what do they mean. What is land?
So it is a part of Earth's surface which is not covered by water or a fixed
Yes,
asset.
yes, just a minute, I could not hear you. Oh, yes, Keshav.
Sir, it is a part of Earth's surface which is not covered by water and it is considered as fixed asset.
Yes, therein lies the fundamental problem, and you have to unlearn it. What about you, Sambit?
So I would go with the same definition.
Your understanding of land is a little disturbing, and that is not a problem, but you should now realize it. That land is in economics is not just the surface of the earth. Land in economics is defined as all free gifts from nature. Whatever nature provides us is called land. So to an economist, water is land if it is available freely from nature. If then air is land, the environment is land. So everything that we get from nature without paying any price to nature is called land. Okay, Keshav, am I clear?
Yes, sir, understood.
Hmm? Yes.
Yes, sir.
So, but the point is, when I am making a point, when it is available from nature, where I am meaning to say that it is available free from nature without paying a price to nature. For many of these natural resources, we pay price. But do we pay the price to nature? Sambit?
Oh no, sir, we don't.
We pay the price to someone who claims to be owning that resource,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So be very careful that land is always referred to in economics as free gifts from nature, for which the nature does not charge any price from us. Okay? Just as the free gifts, those free gifts are available to other living beings as well. So from that perspective, land is a factor of production which is equally available to all the living beings, including human beings on the earth. Because nature has given it, nature is not charging any price. It is not saying that you can obtain it only if you have some purchasing power or capacity to buy. Nature has provided these resources free of cost to every living beings on the earth. Right, Yashovardhan?
Yes, sir.
Archita, is it a belief or now an agreement?
Agreement.
Hmm?
I agree. It's not a
Yes.
belief.
Yes, it's not a belief. You have to agree, right? Because uh, a belief can often be construed in your mathematical term as axioms or what is that called? Tautology. No, not tautology. I just forgot the term. It considered to be an axiom, right? Which cannot be questioned, isn't it? Archita?
Right, right, Professor.
But an agreement may be questioned later, right?
Yes, Professor.
So that is the difference between belief and agreement. So in our courses in economics, we should stick to the fact that we should not believe in anything. We should either agree or disagree. Right? Now comes the second question. That if land is a factor of production, should economics have a linkage with nature in its analytical framework? Shambit? Shambit? Aliva? And has that been done very consciously in the economics that we have learned so far? Keshav?
Yes, sir.
No, have we really consciously done that in our economic structure, this fundamental structure of economic theory? Have we done that? In your micro theory or macro theory, does nature come directly into your analysis?
Sir, your voice is breaking. I'm not able to get the question.
You can't hear me?
Sir, my network connection.
Oh, okay. Yashovardhan?
So I think we deal with people who uh, like own those resources, but we don't directly bring the nature in the analytical framework of economics. I believe. I think. I'm sorry.
Yes, meaning what I say is that who own air? Does anybody own air?
No.
So there are resources which are provided by nature which we use in our production process, but they have not yet been included into our microeconomic or macroeconomic understanding or theoretical structure. Of course, we have developed ideas of environmental economics now or ecological economics now, but they are at the sidelines and they are not considered to be a part of the mainstream the economics that you have talked in game theory or in microeconomics or in macroeconomics. Those are the areas you have shown your interest in. So this is one of the very important issue that is coming into economics recently. Why are they coming? Because you might have noticed over the last two decades or so, we have been concerned with global warming. We have been concerned with climate change. Even right now, we are in a pandemic where we sometimes, some people have started arguing that we have played with nature too much, and that is really leading us to this sort of problems. So now in economics, there have been a sort of an effort to bring in nature directly into the economic structure or the conceptual theoretical framework of understanding economic issues and the issues of optimizing. Right? Shambit?
Yes, sir.
And that is why people have started developing an idea called social ecological system. The point is, what they want to argue and emphasize on is that an economic system or a social system, meaning political system or a cultural system, cannot sustain without explicit recognition of the fact that the fundamental differential feature of human beings in terms of their ability to produce cannot be completely taken care of if we do not make a point that we can produce to a large extent because we have access to resources which are offered to us by nature without any price. Some people in between maybe are charging prices because of some political or social power that they enjoy, economic power, but nature does not charge any price for that. And this has to be included in our analysis of economic systems and economic problems and so-called optimization of decision making process. And this is what is known as social ecological system. And we have started arguing. And the whole issue of uh, bringing down the rise in temperature within 1.5% of the pre-industrial revolution level is a recognition of the fact that our economic system cannot sustain unless and until, or our social systems cannot sustain unless and until we explicitly bring in the issue of use of natural resources into our analysis of a social system, its political, economic, and sociological implications. Do I make sense, Archita?
Yes, Professor.
Would you like to comment anything on this? Am I wrong, or it should be extended a little bit, my arguments?
Not yet, Professor.
Okay. Sambit, would you like to, if you agree, would you like to give some example? Or if you don't agree, would you like to give some examples? Or if you are in between, or also would you like to give some examples?
Sir, I agree, but I can't really think of an example right
No, how do you look at climate change? What is that? Why are we having a global warming and climate change? Have you heard of these terms?
now. Oh, yes, sir, I have.
Why do you think we are having the problem or concern for climate change and global warming and so on?
Sir, due to excessive greenhouse gases emission.
We have?
So, due to excessive greenhouse gas emission.
Yes, but why did we have it? I am asking from a perspective of an economist.
So that may be due to increased production.
Is it due to increased production or something else? Would you like to go a little deeper into that? Shivi, are you now in a position to come to the discussion?
Yeah, so what do I have to tell about climate change?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
No, what I am saying is that was there any problem with our mainstream understanding of economics to uh, so that we created the problems of concerns of global warming or climate change?
yeah, so our population increased rapidly due to which our wants increased, for which we degraded the environment.
Okay, Yashovardhan.
I think the production processes and the resources that is used by companies and all, like they follow the economic process of minimizing costs and maximizing production, but they are sort of disregarding the ecological impact that these resources have just because they're driven by a certain profit motive and not uh, environmental motive as well.
Very good. What about you, Keshav?
Yes, sir. Because of sir over exploitation of the resources to increase the production and to maximize the profit, there is exploitation of our environment, and all this gives a negative externalities to the consumer and the producers ultimately.
Very good. Now, I would like you to go back to your understanding of production, this equilibrium in production. Do you remember that diagram where we have a cost function, and then we have isoquant, and then we arrive at the point of tangency between the highest isoquant and the cost function to arrive at the equilibrium, right? You remember that? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, what was the cost function made of? It was the cost of labor and cost of capital, right? Isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Was there any component related to cost to nature?
No, sir.
But and we said that we optimized, did we? Sambit?
Sorry, sir, your voice broke. Could you repeat?
And then was that optimization a real optimization process, or we lost out something?
Sir, we lost nature.
Hmm?
Sir, we lost out nature.
Yes. We never cared for nature, we took it for granted. And in this process, we polluted the nature and we took that for granted. So our fundamental economic structure does not allow us to involve or engage the fundamental point in our production system, that our production system is intimately linked with nature per se, either as a supplier of resources or as a consumer of the pollutants. What are pollutants in that sense? Pollutants are those products we produced which we refuse to consume and dump it to nature. Yes or no? Yashovardhan?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
So we used resources from nature free of cost, then produce something which are giving us utility, and also produce something which rather gave us negative utility. We refused to consume them and we dumped it onto nature. And for that also, we did not compensate nature for that. And that's why nature provides us with resources free of cost for production, but also accepted negative goods without any compensation from us. Right, Aliva? Shivi?
So, yes, sir.
Aliva, you have any comment to write? Archita?
Yes, Professor.
So the point is, now the time has come for us to include the idea of the fact that we are taking from nature what we want and we are dumping on nature what we do not want, which nature also does not want because nature did not produce them. And this is the fundamental idea behind the emergence of the concept of social ecological system. Because in the process of our getting engaged in a production process, we have put a lot of stress on the ecological system. And for quite some time, nature accepted those stress and somehow absorbed those stress. But over the last 20-25 years, we have come to realize that the nature is also not in a position to absorb the different pollutants that we are throwing into the nature. And as a result, we are also finding, and again, Archita, I would say it's not a belief, it's a realization that nature is taking back, taking its revenge on us. The increased number, where are you from, Archita? You are from Maharashtra, right?
No, Professor, I'm from Odisha.
You are from Orissa, but you were in Maharashtra for quite some time, right?
Yes, Professor.
You studied in St. Xavier's, Mumbai.
Yes, Professor.
Now, you might have noticed over the last few days, there has been havoc rainfall in Maharashtra which never happened before, right?
Yes, Professor.
What is that? Can we call that to be a revenge from nature?
Yes, Professor.
The result of the way we polluted nature for the last 200, 250, 300 years. So now the nature has also started taking its revenge, and then only we became conscious and concerned that how to take care of nature in our economic analysis, even in game theory or in micro theory or macro theory. So the process has started, and this is the fundamental reason as to why we have gradually started thinking in terms of linking nature or ecology or ecosystem with our social systems. And that is the basis behind the emergence of the idea of social ecological system. Do you have any question? If you don't have, I think you have some questions. If you have, please raise them. Would you like to write some questions, Aliva? Yashovardhan, you have no question?
Not at the moment, sir.
Okay. Keshav?
No, sir, I just want to add that there's a field of called environmental economics where we study all these concepts and take the pollutants into account and then maximize decision will take place.
I could not get it. Can you repeat the sentence once more?
But
You
there's a field of environmental economics where we
yes,
take the pollutants and all into account and then maximize decision will take place.
yes. No, we have found that, but
Found that.
the point is, when you are doing environmental economics, what are you doing? You are keeping the structure of understanding the same,
Yes, sir.
right? This okay, Aliva, I am coming to your question. The structure of economics is the same because we are using the same cost function with labor and capital. Yes, yes or no?
Yes, sir. We do.
We are considering environment as an outside external entity, and we are trying to take care of that. We have developed an argument that if you pollute, you have to pay. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Hello. Well, that is the fundamental idea of environmental economics, right? Hello.
Right, sir.
Now, when you are using a cost function where you are not using nature, cost to nature, and then you are saying that you have polluted so you can pay, but can by paying you can take care of the pollution?
No, sir.
You get my point?
Yes, sir.
Environment economics says that you have to pay for your pollution, but the point is, if someone pays for pollution, can that take care of the pollution? What are Do we have the technology to take back the pollutants from nature? completely, do we have them? And if we can have them, what will be the cost? Because now people are saying that if you have to go for climate mitigation, the cost will be 300 in trillions of dollars. Now, who should pay for that cost? Keshav?
Yes, sir, this is the issue that we study in environmental economics, that cost allocate.
When we are working out the cost, we did not include it for last 300 years, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So if we want to recover that cost of 300 trillions of dollars from those who produced for the last 300 years, will that be possible?
No, sir.
We can realize the penalty from today. But what about what happened for the last 300 years? Who will pay for that? Did we take that into account while we identify a price for a product? Hello.
No, sir.
So that is the point. Environmental economics is telling you that, well, this was the cost. But how to realize that cost? Our economic structure is yet to sort of include those ideas into our mainstream economic theorization. Well, Aliva, would you like to repeat the questions that you raised? I just lost track of that. I found your one question was on constraints, right? That is the point. When we are introducing the constraint, we are introducing the constraint only in terms of constraint of labor and constraint of capital cost to our total cost. We operate on the cost line. But the fact is, we did not include the environmental cost or the pollution cost. Right, Aliva? That means, in reality, the cost was much higher, meaning the cost constraint would have led us to a lower level of ISOC 1 if we took those costs into consideration, isn't it? Hello? If we wanted to take into account the pollution cost, then the available resources to engage labor and capital would have come down, and the cost constraint curve would have come down, because some portion has to be left out to take care of the nature, and then we could produce less than what we produced in the earlier situation, isn't it? Somrit?
Yes, sir.
So the point is, now the time has come to to bring in the issue of environmental cost in production directly into our analysis of production. And if that cannot be done, we will not be able to take care of pollutions from an economist's perspective. What we are doing so far, we can say that this was the cost. But from an economist perspective, we are yet to give a solution as to how is that cost to be realized, of what cost we paid for the last 300 years. Is it that if we require trillions of dollars to take care of global warming, that is the cost we incurred over the last 300 years, Keshav?
Yes, sir.
So these are some of the fundamental questions that will come when we go into the details of social ecological systems. I have nothing to say any further. If you have any point, you can raise, or we can say goodbye. But I missed the second question of yours, Aliva. Would you like to raise it now, or you can raise it later? Are you there, Aliva? Shivi, you have any comments?
No, sir, not right.
The mathematician?
No.
Okay then. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.